Hello, everyone, and welcome to this first little film clip in the series that involves modeling a key knob for a car. Now, I'm going to share my screen to begin with, like so. A key knob is basically a wireless car key used to open or close your car, a bunch of different functions. We are going to use Daniel's design throughout this series and throughout the assignment. And I'm going to show you one way of doing it in terms of modeling in 3D in Alias. First of all, when you open Alias, it looks something like this. And I would like to set your tolerances. And we do that by using the preferences, construction options. So we go to construction options. Now, default, there is a set of tolerances that are a bit too rough for us to use. It says user defined here. And if we go down and look at fitting, curve fit distance is set to 0.1 millimeter. That will create tiny little gaps between the surfaces in your design, and we don't want that. So we're going to set the tolerances to a finer set. So if we go to general CAD settings, you can see that the curve fit distance is then set to 1/100th of a millimeter, which is perfect for us. So make sure you have the correct tolerance settings using construction options. Now, also a few words on the graphic interface. When you start up Alias, it looks something like this. You have the grid present and so on. I'm a huge fan of using marking menus, which is when you hold down the Control and Shift button, and you get a bunch of fast commands on the different mouse buttons. I'm going to use a different setup of marking menus for modeling. So if we go to preferences and then workflows and then modeling, you get a slightly different setup of different marking menus, which are chosen in order to make your modeling faster. So I recommend using that. Also, if we look at the palette over here, it can be used in two ways. Either you use the icons that pop up when we click on the tabs like this, and then you can scroll and pick the appropriate icon to model. I tend to use them in a different way. So I turn the window like this. And if I right click on each tab, I will get the menu command as roll downs like this. So I right click surface edit, trim surface, for instance. That will get me a much faster access to all of the commands featured in the palette. Good. I showed you this image. We are going to import this image, this sketch, into Alias to use as a background, and we do that by using the import canvas image. So let's start by doing so, and we want that image in the top view. So I press F5 for top view. That sets me in the top view of the viewports in Alias. And then I go File, Import Canvas Image. I press that and I choose, see where it is now. I need to go look for it. Age, of course, is right there. Key knob Daniel JPEG. I press that and go open. See what that gives it. It gives us a huge image. You can see that, can you? It is massive. So we need to bring this down to the correct size. And I'm going to just make dimension up here. I'm going to claim that the total height of this key knob is roughly around 60 millimeters. Let's see how big this image is. We can do that by choosing locators, measure, distance, and click on roughly on the top of our key knob and also somewhere. Oh, you can see that really well, can you? Well, let's click here and see how tall that is. So we get a figure here, which is kind of hard to read, but it's 6,651 millimeters, roughly 6.6 meters. We need to bring that up down by probably 100 times or so. So let's do that. I'm gonna go pick nothing and pick object and pick my canvas top, my canvas image, and then go middle mouse button and scale. And a canvas image can be transformed just like any other object in Alias. You can scale it, you can move it, you can rotate it, and so on. And I want to scale it. So I can either drag it like this, or I can type in a value. And I think 100 of the total length here will probably suit us well. So I'm going to go scale and type in 0.01 to shrink that image considerably. And let's go measure this one now and see how long it is. Locator, measure, distance, roughly from there to there. And it is now 66 millimeters, which is just fine. Now, if we look at the shape, I'm going to delete that locator and delete all locators. So if we look at the shape of Daniel's design here, we can clearly see that the bottom part consists of a circle. So let's use that as a reference and try to place the center of this circle at 0.0 over here. So I'm going to draw a circle using curves, primitive circle, and make sure it's set a periodic circle, and 5 by 12 is fine. I'm going to roughly place it around here, and then scale my circle down to roughly fit the outline of this. That works. And then I'm going to move the circle to the 0.0 point over here. So I go move, hold down the Alt key, and press somewhere in the neighborhood of this point here. So that places my circle about here. Now I go pick nothing, pick object, and choose my canvas plane like so, and go move. And I'm going to try to match my canvas image with my circle. See if I can make that fit nicely. Slightly. Oh, something like that, I believe. Should do it. We have an even space all around here. Good. Now the next step is to take the pivot point of the canvas top and place it into the orego, or 0 by 0. So I go set pivot, split pivot. Hold down the Alt key and press somewhere close to the origo, like so. That places our canvas with a good reference point in the center of this circle. We are going to use that later on. Let's get rid of that curve. We don't need that anymore. Pick curve and delete. Now, the canvas plane is very useful, but sometimes it gets in the way. So if I pick my canvas planes and go to my control panel over here, I can actually make it transparent, which is quite useful. So I scroll down here on transparency and go to canvases, and I can slide this bar and make my canvas image more or less transparent. So I use that a lot. Sometimes I just want to see the contours, and sometimes I'm in need of more of a precision, and then I can bring it down to no transparency. And sometimes I do not wish to see it at all, and that's where I use layers. So let's create a new layer called canvas. So I pick my canvas plane and I go assign. Now I can show or not show my canvas plane by the click of a button, which is very, very useful. Okay, so now we have our canvas plane in place. We are going to start by creating the top surface, the one you see here. And I'm going to go to the perspective view, like so. And notice that you can still see the canvas plane right here. I'm going to create a plane to begin with. Surfaces, primitives, and then plane. Type in 0 space 0 space 0, which places it in origo, like so. And now we can use the handles here to scale it into a good size. So I press a little cube here, so I can scale it in the width and also in the length, something like that. And I probably need to move it slightly also in order to frame the entire shape here. Let's make it a little longer. So we are certain that we cover the entire area here. Now, using flat surfaces, it's something that we try to avoid when designing stuff. We want some kind of shape to it. So let's bring some curvature onto this very, very flat surface here. And we can do that by manipulating the CV points of the surface. And the CV points can be activated in the control panel out here. So if I turn on CV hull, like so, you can see now the CV points of the surface. So I'm going to give it a bit of a crown in both directions by choosing, first of all of the CVs, and then leave the corner points as they are, and then go move. And by using my right mouse button, move them up slightly. You see, I can move them up like that, but I'm just going to give it a tiny little crowning, like so. And on top of that, I'm going to pick the 4 center CVs and bring them up just a tiny little bit. That gives us a nice crowning of this surface. If we shade it up, you can see it more clearly. It is now not flat anymore. Now this is a very good start for our top surface. Now I want to bring it up. Pick surface and move roughly. I'm picturing this key knob as being roughly 8 millimeters thick. That's a wild guess from my side because I don't have the side sketch of this. But let's say it's going to be 8 millimeters thick. I then want to bring this surface up by 4 millimeters. So I type in 0 space 0 space 4 to bring it up 4 millimeters. I then mirror this surface around the plane here in order to get my bottom surface. And to mirror an object, I go pick surface and then edit, duplicate, mirror, and I hit the little square next to it to make sure I mirror around the correct plane. And make sure I have my XY plane. You can see here the different directions. So it's my X and Y plane that I want to mirror about. And that's going to be my bottom surface. And that concludes part 1 of the key knob modeling. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for listening.